All right, let's get right into it. Every once in a while, a stock has a day that just makes you hit the brakes and say, whoa, what just happened? Well, today, we're going to be a detective. We're dissecting the technical report on a stock that did exactly that, to really understand the anatomy of a massive breakout.
Look at that number. Just let it sink in. 2,263%. Now, that's not the stock's gain. That's the one-day increase in its trading volume. We're talking about a biotech company called Purple Biotech, ticker PPBT. A number like this just screams that a huge, and I mean huge, crowd of people suddenly got very, very interested.
So what's the story here? You have a stock that was basically asleep at the wheel, and then boom, it just absolutely roared to life. In this explainer, we're going to dig into the technical report from that day piece by piece to see what the charts and the indicators were telling everybody in real time.
Okay, so first, let's just get a sense of the sheer scale of what went down on October 29th, 2025.
This chart really tells the tale. I mean, the stock had been stuck in this little rut, just trading around 55 cents. But on this one day, it just rocketed up to a high of $1.41. It ended up closing the day with a gain of over 56%. This wasn't some slow and steady climb, folks. This was a launch.
Now, you know as well as I do, moves like this don't just happen out of nowhere. There's almost always a trigger, what we call a news catalyst. It's the spark that lights the whole bonfire. So, what was the spark for PPBT?
And there you have it. The company announced a huge manufacturing milestone for one of its key drug candidates. Now, here's why this is such a big deal. This wasn't some minor update. The report says this breakthrough makes the drug commercially viable to produce, and, even more important, it clears the path for them to file for first-in-human trials. For any investor, that's a signal that the project just got a whole lot less risky, and the market, well, it reacted instantly.
But to really feel the power of this breakout, we got to rewind the tape a little bit. You have to see where this stock was coming from.
So as you can see from this timeline, PPBT was in a pretty nasty downtrend. I mean, it was over $2 back in July, then it took a nosedive in September. After that, it spent weeks just grinding sideways, what we call a consolidation phase, totally stuck between 55 and 65 cents. It honestly looked like a forgotten stock, which is exactly what made that October 29th explosion so absolutely dramatic.
Okay, now for the fun part. Let's get into the technicals. The report shows that once this thing started moving, the charts just lit up like a Christmas tree with positive signals. Let's break down some of the most important ones.
First up, moving averages. You can think of these as just smoothed out trend lines. For traders, one of the biggest bullish signals you can see is when a stock's price literally punches through these averages from below. It's like a sign that the old, sad trend is breaking and a new, happier one might be starting.
And wow, this table just says it all. You can see the stock's price at 91 cents compared to those key short-term averages, the SMA and the EMA. And as you can see, the price didn't just cross them. It blew past all of them. This is a classic textbook signal of a massive shift in momentum.
Okay, so another thing we look at is trend strength. And a really easy way to think about it is like a game of tug-of-war, right? On one side, you have the buyers, and on the other, the sellers. Who's pulling harder? Well, on this day, the result was pretty decisive.
This chart here shows an indicator called the Directional Movement Index. The buyers are at almost 63. The sellers, they're barely even in the game, down at 10. This was not a tug-of-war, my friends. This was a complete and total domination by the buyers. The chart is basically screaming that a very strong new uptrend is underway.
But a good analysis always looks at the full picture. It's never that simple, is it? And while all those trend indicators were screaming, go, 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 the report points out that another group of indicators were flashing some serious warning signs.
Yeah, these are called oscillators, and they can tell you if a stock is overbought. Think of it like the tachometer in your car. It's great that the engine is running, but if that needle stays in the red zone for too long, you know it probably needs to cool down. An overbought stock has just gone up so far so fast that it's probably due for a little break or a pullback. And on this day, man, PPBT's oscillators were deep in the red. You've got the RSI getting close to that overbought level of 70, the CCI is at a frankly insane 636, and a bunch of others, like the stochastic RSI and the money flow index, were pretty much maxed out at 100. They all measure slightly different things, but they are all screaming the exact same message. This rally is powerful, but it might be getting a little too hot, a little too fast.
So this creates this really fascinating split personality, right? On one hand, the short-term view is just incredible. You have momentum, you have buying pressure, you have volume, but then you zoom out and the report reminds you, hey, this stock is still way below its 52-week high of almost 14 bucks. It's still below its long-term 200-day average. One amazing day doesn't just erase months of history.
And that, of course, brings us to the million-dollar question for anyone looking at this chart. Was this explosive day the real deal, the start of a true long-term comeback? Or was it just a spectacular, but ultimately temporary flash in the pan? All right, let's pull all of this together. Let's look at the report's final conclusion and what it suggests everyone should be watching for next.
So, the final take breaks down into 3 pretty clear points. First, in the short term, the picture is overwhelmingly bullish. This breakout is real, it's powerful, and it's backed by huge volume. Second, you cannot ignore those overbought signals. There is serious warning that a pullback, or at least the pause, could be coming. A stock can't go straight up forever. And third, and this is the big one, the long-term story is no longer about the charts. It's all about what the company does next.
So what are people watching now? Well, a few key things. Traders are going to be eyeing these price levels. Can the stock stay above its old ceiling, which should now be its new floor? Can it break through the next level of resistance? But honestly, more importantly, all eyes are on the company for the next piece of real news, any updates on that trial filing and the clinical data.
And that kind of leaves us with one final thought, doesn't it? The charts told a fascinating, explosive story for one day. But for a company like this, a clinical stage biotech, where everything, and I mean everything, is ultimately tied to the science succeeding or failing, maybe the most important signals don't come from the charts at all. Maybe they come from the laboratory.